Hey everybody and welcome back to Screwloosegames. I'm Sack and here we go again with the monthly challenge run. So there's been several announcements surrounding the casting for Amazon's new God of War series, which looks...
The fuck is that?
all we have to really go on is this AI image, so we don't really have anything to judge just yet. But regardless, seeing this got me itching to jump back into some God of War. And because, now say it with me everyone, I hate myself, I decided that for this playthrough, I would not only do this run without using any weapons, but would also do it on the hardest difficulty the game has to offer. Give me God of War mode. Why am I doing this to myself? Now before we get into the rules of the run, for anyone curious to know the answer off the bat, no, it is not actually possible to beat this game without ever using a weapon. But I'm going to be doing it as close as physically possible. So, let's break down the rules. I must beat the entire game on Give Me God of War difficulty. I cannot equip the Leviathan Axe or Blades of Chaos at any point unless it is mandatory. I'll explain when and why it's mandatory whenever these situations come up. I can use the weapons for traversal, puzzle solving and QuickTime events. I cannot abuse the boy. Parrying and blocking attacks are fine because the shield is literally part of the bare fist moveset. And as always, the most important rule, have fun. So, a simple enough set of rules for a simple enough challenge, right? Wrong. This was by far the hardest challenge I've done on the channel so far, and possibly the most difficult challenge I've ever completed in a lifetime of playing video games. I'll try to keep this one, for lack of a better term, as brief as possible, as while there are multiple important fights, moments and story beats that I want to show you, if I did a breakdown of the entire game and story, the video would be way longer than it has any right to be. So, without any more delays, let's begin the run. We start off our adventure the way all good ones do, with a woman's funeral. Kratos and his son, called Boy, have just burned our wife's body, which has naturally made us a little bit peckish. So we take Boy on a hunting trip for deer in the direction of Deer, where we very quickly encounter our first bit of combat. We put away our axe and go to town on them. Even though it was only the first combat encounter of the run, I knew this would be a real make or break point for me. It's been several years since I played this game, and I distinctly remember on my first playthrough I went for the hardest difficulty and spent almost an hour on this one encounter alone, and even contemplated turning the difficulty down right here. But that was back when I was a boy. Now I'm a man, with my gamer gene fully activated, and I surprised even myself when I managed to take down this encounter on my first try. Maybe this wasn't going to be so bad after all. Okay, I'm not exploring yet. Fuck those dogs. We have to use our axe a couple of times for traversal reasons and eventually catch up with the mighty deer, and... God, I forgot how incredible the writing was in this game. But we have no time to marvel at the amazing writing, because we've got our first boss fight against one of the trolls, which was even easier than the Draugr, to be honest. When there's only one enemy to focus on instead of several, this run is tenfold easier. Sure, I died once because I thought I'd be able to parry his big bonk stick. But I took him down on my second try very comfortably. We then unlocked the stun ability, which is something that's going to be beyond essential for some of the later and larger fights of the game. Then after getting home, we're thrown straight into our second boss fight, reminding us that God of War 2018 had one of the coldest openings in gaming history.
I warned you.
Finally.
You would not listen.
Fine. My turn. How incredibly disappointing. Come on, then.
Like the troll boss fight, this is a one-on-one, so it wasn't too bad. Though a much longer fight, it introduces us to another feature that I'm going to be honest with you guys. Without it, I don't think I would have been able to finish this challenge, and that's boss checkpoints. I did manage to get him all the way down to his third and final phase before dying, but thanks to the checkpoint, I managed to take out Boulder on my second try. After returning to Boy, the two of us set off on our adventure to spread woman's ashes on the highest peak in all the realms. Shortly into our journey, we reach a perfect example of an encounter that makes this run technically impossible. See, I can't actually reach the enemy on the ledge here. The game wants you to throw your axe, but obviously we can't do that, so I use Boy and his arrows to take them out for me. Don't get used to this, kid. And the next encounter is where on my first playthrough I did turn the difficulty down. The sheer volume of enemies here is insane, and with no axe for crowd control or ranged fighting, this was a struggle. And once you've taken down several enemies, you get 2 additional ranged fighters that are once again out of reach. And as long as there are still men on the ground, you can't rely on Boy to take them out because the majority of the time, he just shoots the guy on the ground anyway. This fight took me a good couple of hours and more attempts than I managed to keep count of, but through sheer determination, repetition and trying over and over again, I managed to make it through and proceed with my journey. We then encountered the next enemy that would prove difficult with fists only, and those were Revenants. I had no choice but to use Boy for these fights, as they're essentially impossible to hit without being weakened by arrows first. Only then would they be vulnerable and let me give them their Deliveroo order of 17 knuckle sandwiches. Then, just before the exit, we encounter a group of humans which, while easy enough to deal with, did present us with our biggest problem of the run. This guy. With no Boy to shoot arrows and no other way of reaching him unlocked to us just yet, I had no choice but to use my axe here. Is that challenge failed, or given there is literally no other way around it, do we let this one slide? I'm choosing to let it slide. We finally meet one of the 2 dwarven blacksmiths, Brock, and these guys will help us by upgrading our weapons and armor throughout the game. And right now is where I imagine you're all a bit confused and asking, Sack, if you aren't using weapons, then why upgrade them at all? Well, that's easy, dear viewer. Stats. While it isn't much, our fist damage does scale with our overall strength stat. And what does upgrading the axe do? That's right, it increases our strength. So let's see what we're working with now. Yeah, I think that's better. Several puzzles and encounters later, we get our first glimpse of the mountain and our second troll fight. This one was a bit rough. Not only did we have the troll to contend with, but several ranged enemies as well. And while these ones were within our reach, they don't exactly die quickly and keep on coming back. Without them, the boss would have been a breeze, but with them, on this difficulty, even a single hit can mean death, which when surrounded by ranged attackers while trying to take down a tank, happened more than once before we eventually got him.
I think you got him.
Shortly after getting our first health upgrade, me and Boy start to get a bit hungry again and decide to hunt boar in the direction of Boar, only to find that this boar is owned by the sexiest woman in all the land. So, you single? 'Cause as of recently I am. We follow her back to her turtle home, help her heal her boar friend, and continue on our journey by boat, where we figure we aren't using these weapons anyway, so we may as well get rid of them.
Stay calm, boy!
I am! This is great!
It wasn't me, it was the boy! He's the one you want! After meeting the world serpent, he moves opening up more of the lake and leading to more areas for us to travel. Along the way up the mountain, we meet Brock's brother Sindri, though have no resources to upgrade our stats this time. We get our revenge on those dogs from earlier by beating up their cousins, and get our first ogre encounter. Using our rage and a little help from gravity, we take out almost all of the mobs instantly, and the actual ogre, he goes down like a bitch once it becomes a fair one-on-one. Then, just as it looks like we're making good progress through the mountain, we stumble into the Black Breath. Fortunately, the woman from the woods is here and tells us where we need to go to clear it. Alfheim, the land of the elves. So we follow her back to Tyr's temple, unlock a new upgrade which allows us to parry projectiles back at enemies, meaning those enemies we couldn't reach before, we now have no excuse for not taking them out ourselves in the future, and we travel to Alfheim. Alfheim. I fucking hated this place. I'm not going to spend too long on this section because merely looking at the footage of my time here is giving me severe anxiety and PTSD.
What is it, boy?
So, I'll just run you through the basics and necessities, but understand that this whole area was the worst part of the game by far. Hands down, no questions. Fuck Alfheim and all of the knife ears that go along with it. This section didn't take me a few hours to beat, oh no. This took me days, several sessions over 4 days of struggling just to get out of this hellhole. I said when this game initially came out that the difficulty spike of Alfheim is just ridiculous, and all these years later, challenge run or not, I stand by that statement. Fuck Alfheim! Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So we arrive at the Forbidden Place, Freya gets flung back to Midgar, we see Sindri again, get some upgrades, proceed to get our ass handed to us again and again and again. Have to use our axe to fight the Ancient, as that's literally the only way to damage it. Make sure to save up the rage meter for the collapsing bridge section so you can get through it as quickly as possible. Traverse the light to fill the Bifrost. Get absolutely shown up by Boy, who somehow managed to kill dozens of these elves without us when we can barely take on more than 2 or 3 at a time. Unlock the ability to make light bridges with Boy. And finally take on the final boss of Alfheim. Svartalfheim. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that one. This guy required ultra instinct levels of patience, and I can't emphasize how much I mean that. To beat this guy on this difficulty with no weapons, you literally need to be perfect. You need to become Goku taking on Jiren in the Tournament of Power. Get hit once, bam, you're blind. Oops, now you're dead. Oh well, those checkpoints for the bosses you've been relying on? Guess what? There are no checkpoints for this one, and look at the size of the health bar! The only way I was able to beat him was through several hours of learning every one of his moves until I could dodge and parry everything he could throw at me, all while saving up my rage meter so I could finish him off at the end. Now for the final time, fuck Alfheim, let's go back to Midgar.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Now able to cleanse the Black Breath, we continue our journey where the Draugr decide to help me prove my point about the elves being such OP enemies by giving us a purple enemy, meaning it's likely too difficult for our current level. But we still take him out easier than the most basic mobs of all of Alfheim. Though seemingly wanting to burst my bubble, the game then introduces us to these exploding enemies, and these guys, these took me a minute or 2 to figure out. Again, the game wants you to use the axe's ranged attacks to fight them. Otherwise, they'll just explode on impact with you, and Boy's arrows were useless against them. But eventually, I figured out I could use a mixture of parrying the enemy's projectiles into them and using quick bursts of rage attacks to take them out. After a bit more puzzle solving, it looks like we're finally about to escape the mines of Moria when we're ambushed by a dragon.
Calm yourself, boy, and stay behind me.
Yes, sir!
We proceed to give him a forced ingrown toenail and chase after him once he realizes we mean business.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
The dragon fight was good, and while technically not a weapon, part of the mechanics of this fight require us to throw these red crystals at certain points in the fight, but outside of that, fist only, baby. Also another instance of being grateful for checkpoints in the boss fights here.
But nobody's killed a dragon for hundreds of years. Not since the grand culling of the worms. And unless I'm mistaken, you did all that.
Yep, and without your stupid axe, dwarf. We finally arrive at the summit after taking out some White Walkers, which, being naturally weak to fist damage, were a pleasant change for me. And then we meet everyone's favourite storyteller, Mimir, who, right at our journey's end, tells us that this is in fact not the highest peak in all the realms. It's actually in Jotunheim, and this entire challenge has just been a waste of time.
I'm going to cut off your head now.
Good enough.
With Mimir's head in tow, we return to the Woman of the Woods house, where after dealing with the enemies outside her front door, we quite literally land on a hidden treasure. That's irrelevant to the run, but it tickled me at the time that I just happened to land there. The woman brings Mimir back to life, reveals herself to be the goddess Freya, and we once again return to the world certain with Mimir now as our translator.
Pure
remembers me. Why you... Oh no, that's not it. Mokuno Untunku.
God, this game is just too cool sometimes. With a new mission of retrieving a magic chisel, we make our way there where we encounter our first Wolga. They go down a lot easier than I thought they would, and give us the last of the XP we need to get our final upgrade, which will actually be of any use to us, as everything else is weapon related. Now, I could have just head straight to the chisel, but honestly, this game is just so much fun. Even with this challenge and difficulty, I still found myself doing a borderline completionist playthrough, even though all I had to do was just beat the game. I still wanted to get everything I could and do as much as possible.
Whoa! This is worthless.
I was getting much better at fighting larger numbers of enemies now. At this point, I'd well and truly become a parry god. It wasn't smooth sailing all the way though, not just yet. I really struggled on the first Traveller fight, as I just couldn't find a way to do any damage to him without using my rage. This was a very long and slow whittle down that took several attempts, but eventually managed to persevere. Then this whole lift section had me stuck for a good hour or so, as I just couldn't take out all of the Draugr in the time limit I had, which especially sucked on my third or fourth attempt where I literally ran out of time as I killed the final enemy. After eventually making it to the top though, we ride the hammer down and clear out the various rooms of the ice cavern, and knowing that another boss fight was just around the corner, which would likely prove problematic, I hung around to make sure my rage meter was maxed out using the Fury Talisman so I could at least enter the fight ready with a full rage bar. Hey Sindri! Is this fueling the fires in your heart too?
Why do you think?
So, Magni and Modi. These guys were rough. The rage damage I mentioned I wasted all that time on making sure I had? Non-existent. The parry timing for both of them? Weird. Especially Modi's. And not to mention I had to take down both of their health bars at the same time, or else they'd just keep healing and getting back up. Thank God for checkpoints in this fight. Otherwise, I really don't know if I would have been able to do this one. I'd say this was easily the hardest fight in the game so far, but given this one at least had checkpoints, I still don't think it was quite as bad as him. After killing Magni and taking the chisel, we make our way back to Tyr's temple, only for Modi to come back for round 2 and gravely injure the boy. We take boy to Freya,
What do you hear, mate?
who tells us to heal him, we'll need to go to hell. Rude. So we make our way home to claim our new and iconic weapon, the Blades of Chaos, which we will not be using. As I mentioned before, the White Walkers are already weak to fist damage, so even in this mandatory blade section, it was honestly really easy to complete fists only. Once we arrive at Helheim, there really isn't too much to talk about. The only serious issue I ran into a couple of times was the sheer number of enemies in some of the encounters, and then eventually the area boss, the Bridge Keeper. He's essentially just another frost troll fight, so easy enough, though with mobs. But squishy mobs, not spongy ones. I did die once or twice here, but after the last few boss encounters I've done, this one really wasn't a big deal. We then make our way back to Freya, having unlocked fast travel, and heal the boy who, after coming to, we finally tell him the truth of his origin to stop his sickness from returning.
I'm a god boy. From another land far from here. When I came to these shores, I chose to live as a man. But the truth is, I was born a god. And so were you.
After returning to Tyr's Vault, again, there's not much to say here, as there really isn't much combat in this section. And what little combat there is, isn't something we've not already done dozens of times before in much larger and more difficult numbers at this point. We solve some puzzles, definitely get all of them on our first try, and acquire the Black Rune to travel to Jotunheim. And it's time to face off against the Grendels of Frost and Ash. Now, this is another fight that I knew was coming and was really dreading. I was expecting this to take me a good few hours, but I got it on my third try. It really wasn't that difficult. I don't know if I just got lucky with the AI staying close together, so I was able to take down both their health bars at the same time, meaning that they couldn't really do that much healing, but I didn't struggle nearly as much as I thought I would with this boss fight, and to celebrate, me and Boy had our first father-son drink together. Have I mentioned how freaking great the writing in this game is yet? On the way back to the mountain, Boy has officially entered the angsty, annoying teenager years, and after being a dick to Sindri, goes against our wishes and kills Modi, stops obeying us in combat and starts fighting on his own, starts giving us back chat, starts a fight with another ancient, meaning I have to use the axe again, paints the rune with his own blood, and then just as we reach our goal and get ambushed by Boulder, he attacks us! The little shit went and shot me!
And here I thought my family was fucked up.
So after fighting Boulder on the back of a dragon, Kratos, Boy and Boulder all end up back in Helheim. And after giving the boy a stern talking to,
This will not stand. You will honor your mother and abandon this path you have chosen.
we need to fight our way out of here. Without a doubt, the toughest encounter here besides the actual boat ride was the fight just beforehand. I died so many times here, all because of these two beefy boys. And even after I finally beat it, I think the only reason I actually did was because the AI messed up, and instead of sending them both out at the same time, the second one, for whatever reason, didn't spawn in until the first was practically dead. So pure luck there on my part. The actual boat ride though, technically not so bad in comparison, but was difficult in its own way. We have to keep lighting the fires which the White Walkers are constantly extinguishing, or else it's an instant game over. Now, I'm pretty confident I didn't hit any enemies while I was doing this, but given the blades also hit behind you with some attacks, I will be entirely honest with you here, I can't guarantee I didn't scrape one or two of them, but I'm pretty confident I didn't. After finally making our way out of Helheim, Brock and Sindri have settled their differences and forged us the key to enter Tyr's secret vault. And I'll be honest again here guys, outside of the bosses, I mostly just took advantage of the traps here as a way of dealing with all of the enemies because, hey, it may not be fists, but if they want to kill themselves with the environment, that's a zero-hit kill in my eyes, baby.
If you get hit, it's your own fault.
Once we flip the temple and jump off the world tree, we enter Tyr's final test. And this was a test of endurance. Having to fight the hardest enemies in countless numbers from every world. This was without a doubt the hardest non-boss fight in the entire game with, you guessed it, the Alfheim section giving me the most trouble, essentially being clones of that Svartal fuck guy, just with less health. But now there's two of them! Honestly guys, I won't lie to you, this entire section, it took me over 3 hours to finally clear, with probably 2 of that being spent on those goddamn elves! Before, of course, remembering, I had talismans that reduced their damage. Oh god, I'm an idiot! After surviving the gauntlet, we finally make it through and restore the bridge to Jotunheim, finally allowing us to enter the end gate.
God, and I won! Odin plucked out my other eye precisely to keep me from travelling. Sorry, lads. Thought that would work.
Okay, I know I've glazed this game's writing, but seriously, there's far too many "you've done it, ah wait, never mind" moments at the end of this game. Brock and Sindri tell us the final thing we need is Mimir's missing eye, and is likely inside the World Serpent. We ask nicely, and the biggest boy in the 9 realms lets us inside his stomach to retrieve it, where we're then ambushed by Baldur and begin the last fight of the challenge.
You missed me!
Now, while I won't say this was a hard fight, it took me a good 2 hours or so, but that was purely down to the fact it's such a long fight. Compared to some of the other bosses in the game, he really wasn't that bad. Phase 1 was difficult purely due to his tankiness and the giant and Freya constantly interfering. Phase 2, definitely the hardest with the extra mobs distracting me. But Phase 3, easy. I mean, yeah, if it wasn't for the checkpoints, This would probably be the hardest fight in the game by a noticeable margin, but that is purely down to the extreme length of the fight. But that's enough talking, because now the fight is done. We snap Baldur's neck, Freya swears the most brutal revenge against us.
Every violation imaginable upon you.
Rude. And we are finally able to make it to Jotunheim to spread woman's ashes and finish the game. We call boy son for the first time in his life, and just like that, God of War 2018, give me God of War difficulty, fists only. This game is absolutely fantastic. 8 years later, dear God of War, that makes me feel old. It still not only holds up, but exceeds the quality of the majority of games releasing today. And it has been an absolute pleasure replaying it today. This was without a doubt the most difficult challenge I've done here on the channel so far. And as much as I know the community we've gained here on Screwloosegames loves the more Dark Souls side of challenge runs, I'd love to play more games like this in this way. So what other challenges in other games do you want to see me do on the channel? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to those same Dark Souls enjoyers that have been waiting for the next Souls challenge run, well, I'm pleased to tell you, I finally thought of one I want to do. And it's one that I can't say I've ever seen anyone else do. And I'll be bringing it to you here as soon as I can. Until then though guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good day. Cheers.